Hey, read through the word. Today is February 19th, and today's lesson is called Purpose. This is the lesson that I told you in a live a couple of weeks ago that was going to be coming, where I'm going to help you make some sense of the book of Leviticus. And I am hoping that by the time we get to the end, you will come to love the book because you will understand its purpose, which is why today's lesson is called Purpose. So I've chosen right now is for our verse is Leviticus 11. Let's do 1 through 8. It says this: When the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Of all the land animals, these are the ones that you may use for food. You may eat of any animal that's completely split hooves and choose the cud. You may not, however, eat the following animals that have split hooves or that chew the cud, but not both. The camel chews the cud, but does not have split hooves, so it is ceremonially unclean for you. The hyrax, which says or coney or a rock badger, chews the cud but does not have split hooves, so it is unclean. The pig has evenly split hooves but does not chew the cud, so it is unclean. You may not eat the meat of these animals or even touch their carcasses. They are ceremonially unclean for you." Okay, one thing, let me just throw this out there. When you see things about ceremonially unclean, that does not mean sinful. So like, I had one of my students come to me, was reading in the book of Leviticus the other week, and she's like, "Ms. Nance, I have this whole thing about a woman in this time of the month and ceremonially unclean." I said, that does not mean she's sinful. I said, God's trying to teach cleanliness actually to his people. I said, so it really has to do with the power of blood and then also germs. And so we're going to go through some of that right now too. But what I need us to see is when we read the book of Leviticus, we need to have at the forefront of our minds as you're reading through and going through. I know, and can I tell you, read it, don't skip it, because I want you to notice a few things that you're going to see. The book of Leviticus begins precisely. Now, last year I talked specifically about this. The Exodus leaves off with, there's the tabernacle, everything's done. Moses, God, the glory of God has fallen upon the tabernacle, and Moses cannot enter into the tabernacle. So you're like, well, Moses isn't meeting with God. What's the issue? Now remember how we kept talking about home, and God wants to dwell with his people. Here's the thing. Remember, holy, 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 trihagion? God is holy. Man is sinful. How is it possible that a holy God can dwell in the midst of his people? Leviticus explains how it's possible. Leviticus is how it's possible. Everything spelled out in the book of Leviticus is explaining to us. Number one, it's explaining to us the work that will be done by Jesus Christ. But it's also explaining how it's possible, what it requires for a sinful people to be in the presence of a holy God. It has to be through this. Everything. Look at what it requires. Look at what it requires. Moses has been outside of that tabernacle, filled with the presence of God, and he can't even enter. So we stop this historical narrative structure that has been going through Genesis and Exodus, and you hit Leviticus, and you're like, what? What? Because you have three types of laws that are in here. You have the moral law, you have the civil law, and you have ceremonial law. And so you have all of these things, And it is the significance of the laws and rituals that follow is exactly how we sinful people are enabled to have God dwell in their midst, because he wants to dwell, remember? That's the whole purpose. But because we're so sinful, if we step one step into his presence, poof, we're gone. And it's God, because God is holy, he can't stop that. He can't say, oh, well, never mind, you're okay. Because then he's not holy anymore. So it has to be that God is, remember, holiness in his love, holiness in his justice. He's holy in all things. And so he cannot cease to be holy, because holy is who he is. So when we look at this, God is showing that he wants to dwell with his people, but their impurity means judgment in his presence. And the sacrifices act as temporary atonement. And we'll talk more about later this week. But the rituals symbolically cleanse the people from their impurity. And then this maintains a way that God is able to be with his people. So we have this idea of what Leviticus is, but Leviticus really explains to this group of people. That's why you can't proof text these verses, and you can't, what everyone in the world tries to do. Well, Leviticus says this. Well, Leviticus does not apply. But how I tell my students, when we talk Leviticus, I have a lot, reading through the Bible, and they come and ask me questions. And I said, listen, as you're reading, can I tell you, pay attention for everything that God requires the death penalty for. It'll always be a moral law, and it will follow into the New Testament. So pay attention to that. This idea of how, I always say it's the 4 P's. And this is what's funny, is I always talk about this Leviticus. So on Wednesday nights at my church right now, I'm attempting to teach the Old Testament in 9 weeks. And so this last Wednesday night, I have a couple of friends from Read Through the Word, that are in my class. And we get to Leviticus, and they already know what I'm going to say. And they're like, oh yeah, we know this part. But this is, that was funny, is I go into this class. So it's an hour and 15 minute long class. And I type up notes with fill in the blank, and they have to fill in the blank. I tried not to do that one time, but I give out so much information. They said, we can't write it all down, so give us fill in the blank. So at least we're writing some things down. So that's what I do. But I went in, and we had 9 pages. When I finished typing up, I had 9 pages of notes, because I was going to attempt to teach Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy all in one night. I didn't do it. But I was like, oh my word, 9 pages of notes? Okay, I need to go. So I changed the font. Font size. I had it on 14, so it's nice and big. But I dropped back to 12, so that got us to 6 pages. But I only made it through 3 pages of notes. So we got through, I think I just got through Exodus and Leviticus. And so we were going through, and I get to the point of Leviticus. And my friends are like, they rattled them off. I said, y'all are so good. You've been paying attention. All these years of me teaching, between Read Through the Word and in person, they got it. And I said, okay, you have blessed my heart tonight, because you know what I'm about to say. Leviticus. The purpose of Leviticus is this book. This is written to a people in a position, in a place, for a purpose. So people, position, place, and purpose. The people. The people is Israel. This is written to Israel, not to anyone else. This was written to Israel, or anyone who would want to become Israel. So Israel is the people in a position. These are the covenant people of God. They are his people. He is their God. And how are they supposed to make themselves different from the world around them? So the people in a position, in a place. in the land that God has given them, the promised land. And as they are going through the wilderness, that is their promised land. They actually have, this is the camp, this is outside the camp. If you look inside Leviticus, as you're reading Leviticus, you'll notice those. So those are their borders. There's in the camp, outside the camp. So if you're inside the camp, that is your place as they go. And there is a specific way that the camp is set up. Where God is, where the tribes are. And we'll hit a lot of that when we get into the book of Numbers. But you see this, that these people, so the people in a position, in a place for a purpose. Now, the purpose of Israel is that through them, the whole world will be blessed. That is through Jesus Christ. And so, but at this point, what they're looking at is everything is about holiness. Holy, holy, holy. Their God says, I am holy and you will be holy. Means set apart, different. That is the key to all of the food, all of the everything. They're not going to eat like the people. They're not going to dress like the people. They're not going to live like the people. They're not going to have interaction with their social interactions are going to be different. Their family life is going to be run different. The way they teach their children will be different. Everything about them will be set apart and different because they are the people of God. And these are the rules that make them set apart, different, holy. They don't look like everybody else. They don't act like everybody else. They don't talk like everybody else. Man, it's stepping all over my toes. So we're going to see that the people of God do not look like the rest of the world. It says that he has set apart a nation from all nations that surrounded them, that Israel is a constant reminder to the people around them that they are different because of their covenant with God. But it's also a reminder to Israel, we're different. We're supposed to be different. We shouldn't be wanting what everybody else is. We shouldn't be acting like everybody else. We shouldn't be talking like everybody else. Our life should not look, our marriages should not look like that. Our children should not look like that. Because that's what the world looks like. And we are not the people of the world. We are the people of God. And the book of Leviticus shows us that. It shows us how our life is so different, but because we are blessed by it. So here's the outworking of those of us who are this side of the scientific investigation and discovering the scientific method and everything. You know what? Every law of God that he gives his people, it keeps them from having the health problems that every other nation has. It keeps them from having cleanliness problems. They didn't understand germs then. They did not. God did, because he created. He knew. He's like, yeah, you need to take that stuff that comes outside of you, outside the camp. You can't leave it around. Hello, dysentery. God knew that because he's the creator God. They didn't need a medical book to tell them that because the laws of God told them that. God knew how the alimentary canal, which is the digestive system in an animal, works. And he was like, yeah, there's some purification that goes on in the stomach of a cow that does not happen in the stomach of a pig. So wherever you're going through all this time, so God knew, and he gave them rules that had to do to keep them set apart. He's like, because of what he tells us, if you fall, you're not going to have the diseases that everybody else has. Your lives are going to look different. But the problem, what we're going to be is God's going to give them rules that will have them looking different than the Canaanites, the people that we're going to live in the midst of. But they have a moment where they would rather be living like the Canaanites than living like the people of God. And the book of Leviticus shows them how to live like the people of God. It is a beautiful book because it shows the holiness of God, but it also shows how sinful we are and how much God must really, really love us to even want to come into our midst, and what he is willing to do to have a relationship with us. Leviticus shows us the very loving heart of God our Father, and I'm thankful for that. We'll see you next time on Read Through the Word.